You're good to go.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Hill Country Zoom service today. Whether you are attending today, watching later, a member, a friend, or a visitor, we welcome you. It is a pleasure today to welcome back Reverend Phillip Schulman. Reverend Phillip is a longtime echo peace and justice advocate with 30 years experience working for human rights in the field of mental health. And today he will help us move along from the stress towards joy using play. Our opening words today are from Rachel Pollack, entitled 78 Degrees of Wisdom. Imagine yourself entering a strange landscape of magicians, people hanging upside down, and dancers in the bright air. You can enter through a leap from a height, through a dark cave, through a labyrinth, or even climbing down a rabbit hole, chasing a Victorian rabbit with a pocket watch. Whichever way you choose, you are a fool to do it. Why look deep into the mind when you can stay safely hidden in ordinary landscape of job, home, and family? Herman Melville in Moby Dick warned his readers not to take even a step outside the ordinary path laid out for you by society. You might not get back again. And yet, for those willing to take the chance, the leap can bring joy, adventure, and finally, for those with the courage to keep on going when the wonderland becomes more fearsome than joyous, the leap can bring knowledge, peace, and liberation. Interestingly, the fool archetype appears more in mythology than in structured religion. An institutionalized church can hardly urge people beyond the limitations of institutions. Instead, the churches offer a safe haven from the fears of life. Mythology leads directly into the heart of those fears, and in every culture, the mythological landscape contains the image of the trickster, pushing, goading, jabbing the kings and heroes wherever they turn, away from the inner world of truth. Now is time for our announcements. If you have any announcements, please post them in the Zoom chat or let Justin know by waving wildly at the screen. Do we have any announcements? Do you see any, Justin?
Nope.
Okay. We'll now light the chalice. We light this flame, this symbol of our faith. In its fire, let us find the strength to meet the challenges of today and to go forward with joy, love, and laughter. Thank you. Justin will now share with you our mission statement and affirmation. Please read with me, either aloud or silently. We journey together, guided by UU values, to seek, nurture, and serve our loving church family, our community, and our world. The doctrine of this church is love. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. And this is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, as we strive to have all souls grow in harmony with the divine.
All right. Donna, let me get you unmuted again.
Thank you. To those of you who have concerns, sorrows that you felt unwilling to share, we offer you our support. Before we go on with the reading, I would like to remind everybody that although we are doing our services by Zoom, the expenses of the church go on. And if you would please mail your offertory for the church at 960 Barnett, we appreciate very much your support. And our reading today is called Grown-ups Are Better At. Grown-ups are better than children at chess and reading and fixing and mopping a mess. They're better at baking and frying and steaming, but children are better at dreaming. Grown-ups are better than children at math and flushing and brushing and drawing a bath. They're better at counting and buying and paying, but children are much better at playing. Grown-ups are better than children at sports and driving and working and filling reports. They're better at pushing and pulling and lugging, but children are better at hugging. Grown-ups are better at most stuff you see, from tying a shoelace to chopping a tree. But children are gooder and grown-ups are badder at just about all things that matter.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
If you just tuned in, today's theme is, for heaven's sake, keep playing. And I have this is the audience, one of the audience or congregation participation parts. And it's a game, you might say, or a activity that you find everywhere, especially middle-aged young people, but all young people do it. And sometimes it's called, look what I can do. And sometimes that's the younger age. Sometimes it's, who can do this? And spontaneously, without direction or facilitation, young people will follow one after another once it starts. My hope is we'll have at least a couple of volunteers today. And it can be anything. When young people do this, they will whistle or pop their knuckles or reach back. Anything they want to show, hey, I can do this. Can you do that? But it might be knitting or something any of you think you can do right there quickly, kind of. Okay, I have a special talent I want to show you. It's like, if you can hear it. That's mine. Who raise your hand if you want to, or you are willing to play a little here.
Let me turn my microphone back on. Okay, let's do Linda.
I can sing all of the state song Oklahoma, and I do so every time we cross the Red River into Oklahoma. And I've done it for so many years that my children and grandchildren now join in. And my husband from New York just shakes his head.
All right, Carolyn had her hand up.
I have a talent for finding strange things to use or wear. things that make me happy that everybody else thinks are very strange, like my licorice necklace and the little people, naked people climbing into my ears. And when I say I'm wearing my rock today, I'm actually wearing a rock. My glasses, one lens is round, one is square. My coffee cup is a little person. But these are things that, this is one of my skills, and it makes me happy.
All right. Vicky was waving her hand.
I have a collection of headband things, and it's a large collection. I don't have the nose and Groucho mustache like Reverend Phillip, but I do have a number of these, and these are, of course, are for April, since they are bunny ears. I don't have the rest of it that goes with it, but I have quite a collection. So as the service goes on, I'll keep putting different ones on. Maybe other people have some too, I don't know.
All right. Okay, Gary, and then I'll get to Janet and Brian.
On the subject of songs, I know all the words to Rocky Raccoon. If anybody ever wants to hear them or challenge me on it, I don't know why, but I learned that when I was younger.
And I can sing the Greek alphabet.
Give us the sample.
Alphabetic, gamma, delta, epsilon, theta, eta, theta, iota, capital M, mu, Z, omicron, pi, rho, sigma, tau, epsilon, phi, chi, psi, omega. When I was in college, you were in order to get into a sorority, you had to sing it before a match burned down. Well, I never even pledged. I wasn't interested in the sorority, but I just loved the challenge. And all these years later, it has stayed with me. And when there's a crossword that has a Greek letter in it, I have to think through to find the Greek letter.
One more time.
When it comes to foreign languages, I took German in school because it was an easy A for me. We spoke German in the house when I was growing up. And every year at Christmas time, I hear Christmas songs playing in the grocery store and I start singing them in German. So, all right. Janet, you had your hand up.
Mine is not much use here in Kerrville, but I can ask directions to the McDonald's in Japanese.
You should do that while you're in Walmart. And Anna, 1 second here.
Well, so I would say that most of us as kids learned how to say supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, but I happened to learn it in Spanish. Supercalifragilisticoexpialidoso.
Nice. All right, Mari, let me get you up here.
Since we're on the subject of languages, when I was about 7 years old, I went to live in Wales, away from the bombing in England, and my address was Glynach Dwrbuchi Capilillo Penmawr.
Oh.
Okay. All right. And Sandy, you got your hand up. 1 moment here.
Okay. Way back when I was teaching, way back when I was teaching 4th grade on Friday afternoons, when deep thought was kind of not part of the repertoire, one of the songs I taught was "Nobody Likes Me, Everybody Hates Me, Going to the Garden to Eat Worms." And that was back in 1979. And I have middle-aged folks asking me for those words today. So I'm remembered for teaching silly songs.
Awesome. All right. Anyone else? Oh, Susan, let me get you up there.
Yes, I have a couple of things that I enjoy. I'm not a big collector, but I have a wonderful Lenox porcelain tree that I decorate for everything. And I carry it with me to get-togethers to keep it decorated. Uh-oh, there goes one of my china ornaments. I'll get it later, or porcelain ornaments. Anyway, I really enjoy, it's part of my enjoyment is to decorate the tree for these things. You know, for right now it's not Easter, it's spring and Mother's Day. And then I also, this continues not in China, not with China or porcelain, but outside my home, I have little garden flags and hanging flags and door decorations and a mat in front of the door. All of these things get changed seasonally, and I have so much joy and fun for doing it. Hardly anyone sees it, but I really enjoy it.
Right. All right. And Philip had a meditation before we move on. Let me get him back unmuted there.
Thank you, Justin. Yes, this meditation on play is not what I think of as a meditation, breathing or being aware in the moment, exercises and that. It's more the meditation on the time, like a reading that you get in the morning, that's to reflect on. Very serious, you can tell. I'm dressed for the kitchen. Do you feel ramped up, stressed out, tweaked, miffed, blown a fuse, got your undies in a wad, agitated, aggravated, or uptight? Well, we have something for you. You can be the next contestant in our relaxation competition. Maybe you're just mildly competitive. That's good enough for this event. Here's the deal. Relax to win. How about you type A types? Oh, we really like you. Bet you never considered this. You could be number one, the very best at relaxing. Look around at all those mellow Unitarian Universalists. They seem pretty relaxed, right? Well, hey, you can do it better than them. Notice what they are doing. Notice, watch them breathe. Watch how they sit and the way they move. Now, you do it and do the hell out of it. When the competition ends, you will be a winner. You will have access to the winner's circle. In this game, being stressed out is the only way you will lose. Calm the hell down. Makes you a winner. Are you ready for the big event? Better start training. Now here's a free warm-up exercise. On the count of 3, we will begin. Follow my lead. 1, 2, 3. A guy walks into the library and says, "I'll have a cheeseburger and fries, please." The librarian responds, "Sir, you do know you're in a library, right?" Guy says, "Oh, sorry. I'll have the hamburger and fries, please." You know, I like to start my sermons with a joke, with a title like, "For heaven's sake, keep playing. I'm going in for seconds." A chicken walks into a library and says, "Book, book, book." The librarian hands the chicken 3 thin books. The chicken takes the books and heads out. The next day, the chicken comes back to the library and returns the 3 books. The chicken says, "Book, book, book." The librarian gives him another 3 thin books. The chicken takes them, leaves the library, walks over across the, across the field that's across from the library and continues out of sight. The next day, the chicken comes back to the library and returns the 3 books. Then the chicken says, "Book, book, book." The librarian gives us another 3 thin books. The chicken takes the books and leaves the library, goes out across the field from the library. The librarian gets curious and decides to follow the chicken over the field across from the library. She sees the chicken take the books down to the edge of a pond. There, at the edge of a pond, is a bullfrog. The chicken lays the books in front of the bullfrog. And the frog says, "Read it, read it, read it." Okay, I got a little more difficult. Let's try this side. I see it. I love these jokes because I also love the library as a place that opens up worlds of learning and adventure. That is what play does too. These jokes offer, and I'm having a real problem. I'm gonna solve it here, right here. Bear with me and know that see if it is any better. No. Please bear with me. I'm having some technical difficulties. I might well have to wing it. My sermon, the type is going off the page, and I got it. I should have put it in Word. I got it in. Maybe I did. Let me see. If you. Yeah, I'm in Notepad, and but okay, that's better. I'm now in Word, and I've solved the problem. Thanks for your patience. Now I just find the place. Yeah, the jokes would have been much better. Okay, that's better. For our foray into play, today is this a version of a personal tradition observing the April Fool's tradition in its spiritual and ritualist history. In the beginning of my career in parish ministry in 2001, I started with a topic on foolery and have done it many times since. When I was the minister in San Antonio, people wore costumes for the event. And one time I donned a jester's hat. An artist captured it, and the painting was hung in the sanctuary. It seems that goofing around is quite popular. I think we all just want to have fun, Cyndi Lauper. And church can be god awful serious. Now, don't get me wrong. I take seriously the business of religion. Religion points us to the sacred, holy. As religious liberals, we know that there are a diversity of ways to understand and experience the holy. We try not to get trapped in believing or disbelieving sacred stories, but rather to connect to the heart and what is most important. Unfortunately, we have sometimes thought we were above stories. We saw ourselves as educated adults and looked down at us on religion as childish, make-believe. We tried to approach our religion like intellectuals, like scientists. That's okay. It's just that we became just like the people who take the stories literally, and we became god-awful serious. We forgot what it means to be religious liberals, to be generous, and we've missed the forest for the trees. When service and religion is playful, when it's fun, when it touches hearts and makes souls sing, then we will respond with a yes, or oh yes, or amen. And perhaps we'll be saying, this is what it's all about. From here, I'm happy. I feel love. This is why I'm alive, or any ways why I want to live. That is some of the wisdom of the holy fool. He or she reminds us not to take our religion too seriously. We can value life by reclaiming joy. We can remember to play, really play with it. Have you ever watched puppies or kittens or animals in the wild play? We call that rough and tumble play. Why do animals play so rough? They are pushing their little bodies, discovering limits, pushing limits. Though with animals in the wild, they are practicing the skills that they need to survive. Human children also love rough and tumble play. I dare say that all children love it unless or until they have been made to be afraid to move their bodies, afraid to spar with their peers, afraid of life. One cannot become a force of nature if he or she is afraid and unwilling to play. The psychological term for this, coined in the 50s, was learned helplessness. It arises when animals become habituated to helplessness because they have come to believe that their attempts to effect change will be futile, met with pain, harm, or punishment. Human rights activist Naomi Pinson suggests we call it taught helplessness. That makes sense to me. The psychological damage referred to always comes at the hands of some outside force, some dominant, usually oppressive force. Animals are far more likely to have psychological damage when they are in captivity. In the wild, there is dominance, and certainly alphas learn to be more aggressive than those they dominate. However, all wild animals play and learn to develop their capacities. That's not the case for animals in captivity. It's not the case with humans who have been tortured or abused. When animals have lived in environments where their attempts to express themselves are punished, when attempts to stretch physical or mental muscles are met with pain, harm, taught helplessness is the result. Aversive conditioning teaches an animal to believe there is no point in trying to effect change. Consider the way that elephants are trained for the circus. When they are very young, they are chained to a post. In order to move, which their bodies want to do, they can only go around and round in circles. Eventually, the chain can be removed and the elephants will continue to walk in circles. Teaching helplessness is the fastest way to break an animal of its natural longing to play, romp, stretch, to do this and that, to go any which way to discover what is possible. Play is an act of creativity, imagination, and power. It's written in Christian scriptures in the 18th chapter and 3rd verse of Matthew. Jesus says, "Truly I say unto you, unless you return and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." People have used this to promote obedience. Goodness became synonymous with obedience, following the law as Jesus and Paul laid it down, following the law as the popes, the bishops, the priests, and later Protestant ministers interpreted our other religious authorities. Be good Christians, Jews, Muslims, etc. Follow, obey. Wow. When I read the Gospels, when I read them even as an adolescent, such interpretation struck me as being totally inconsistent with how Jesus actually lived. It seemed to me far more likely that Jesus was talking about the childlike qualities of trust, innocence, engagement of life, wonder, play. You want to experience heaven, live in the realm of divine experience, engage life fully with curiosity, then play like a child. Did you ever see a family spend all kinds of money at Christmas to get the newest, coolest toys and gadgets? And then afterwards, after the festivities, the children go outside, maybe in the snow, and take the biggest cardboard box from the presents, and they get inside the box and roll it over and over and over. in the yard. To young children, everything is a toy. They ask in play, what can this do? What can I do with it? What does it feel like? What does it taste like? Oh yes, I can put it in my mouth. That's how we get into heaven. In the 90s, I went to a conference on creativity. There was a presenter there whose name I can't recall, who told an outrageous story. It was full of images, and the action just kept moving. Something like this. Then the purple dragon took off his hat and threw it across the room and landed on a hippopotamus. The rooster said to the cow, would you like to play golf with me today? Actually, it was even more non sequitur, less linear, and made less sense to me than that did. Later, he tested us to see how many details we could remember. We scored poorly. When he showed us how young children scored, young children generally remembered nearly all of the details from the story. How could that be? How could they remember things that didn't make sense? How can we hold a kind of sequence like that together? Ellen Galinsky, author of Mind in the Making, said that adults learn by creating expectations of a situation and then making sense of the clash between our expectations and what actually happens. She said that children make sense of their world by taking on the characters who are important in their life, by play acting the important events in their lives. They pretend, she said. Did you ever watch preschoolers play? They say, have you heard them say, you be the daddy and I'll be the mommy, or I'll be Superman and you be Spider-Man, whatever. They pretend. And then they try on the parts and they play out the scenes that they witness. This is how they make sense of the world. They jump in, they try it on, they make believe. Somewhere along the line, we forgot about playing the game of make believe. Actually, we've been playing another game that is called the game of trying to get it right. Get it right. That's what gets the reward. Right is what parents and teachers and movies define for us. Right is what, wrong is what results in punishment. And we play the game of trying to get right over and over and over. We play it so many times, we forget that we're playing a game. And we forget that we really are still making beliefs. In Thinking Like Da Vinci, author Michael Gelb offers an exercise that asks to come up with this many uses for simple objects like a paperclip. Most people can only come up with a few small possibilities. He said that when he does this same exercise with children, they come up with dozens of ideas of what you can do with a paperclip. Why? Because they're not constrained by the idea of what a paperclip is supposed to do. They are not constrained by thinking that their ideas should be correct. They are not bound by knowledge of what is taught as possible. When I was at Rutgers, I learned all kinds of undergrad. I learned all kinds of techniques to teach supportive, creative writing. Then I got a job at teaching English at Passaic County Voltaic High School. I was frustrated with what I witnessed. Most students would give me virtually the same answer over and over again. They had learned to give the teacher what they believed the teacher was looking for. Original thought, creativity, authentic expression. These were harder to draw out. Students had lost them years before. They had been slaughtered in the pursuit of coming up with the right answer. The idea that Jesus was suggesting that heaven was a place reserved for those who follow the rules, who get the right answers, is outrageous to me. Heaven becomes, in this view, another place for the privileged elite. First, you get in the right university, then you get a 6-figure job. Make sure you got the right doctrine, by the way, and then, yes, you can make it into the finest gated community in the universe, heaven. I'm going to try to offer a different view, a couple different views, there are many, of alternative to this distorted nightmare of heaven, what it could be. Back in ancient days, it's simply heaven was believed to be the place where God lived. It was imagined as another kingdom. As I pointed out before, Jesus' king stories of heaven, or at least Christian interpretations of them, grew from Judaism. And there's a Jewish concept of the endless world, or the end of time. And this became what Christians have come to call the end time, the end times. I believe that a way to escape the prison or burden of time is another way to get to heaven. Peace comes not when we are dwelling in the past or worrying about the future. It comes when we are bringing our consciousness into the present moment. That is what play asks us to do. Unlike the adult habit of filtering everything that happens through our ideas and expectations, play involves jumping into the present situation with an openness as to what will happen next. What will happen next? Not knowing, and excitement to see how things will go and how can we play with how it goes and shape it. That's play. Another understanding of heaven that has shaped our UU tradition is the world where justice rolls down like a mighty water and peace flows like an ever-flowing stream. Heaven is a place where everyone matters. Everyone is loved. Everyone has what they need. Play involves making a connection. In play, all the players matter. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, treat people as if they are real. Perhaps they are. It's funny how when we play, we can make believe and we can treat people as if they are real. When we play, having people to play with, that matters. I'm not implying that all play is safe. I haven't forgotten the expression, it's all fun and games until someone gets hurt. If you look at wild animals playing in the wild, limits get set by parents sometimes, especially for the youngest. Playing within limits, experiencing the challenges, coming up against dangers in a simulated, generally safe way. That's good play. Ellen Galinsky said, you can see children as scientists creating hypotheses and then testing their hypotheses against reality, which is often means pretending. If you look at children in pretend play, they are using every cognitive skill you would ever want them to in order to be successful in the world of the future, imagination, creativity, using language, logic, counting, using cognitive, social, and emotional skills. Albert Einstein said, play is the highest form of research. Lest I fall into a trap of reducing play into something totally linear with only one purpose, I will return to what might be the most essential element of play. Fun. It's driven by the desire to have fun. I believe that fun, enjoyment, is our birthright. So the question is, how do we reclaim it? How do we find heaven? I have already shared a few ideas. I wish to avoid dishonoring the importance of this question by assuming I have the answer. It's almost a UU dogma that says, if you think you know what heaven is, then you probably miss it. Heaven isn't something you purchase. It's not acquisition. It's not something, some place that you enter by force, rolling in with tanks. Play maybe involves not having the answers, requires wonder, and often leads to wow and oh. I would like to end this foray, I call it foray, into the wisdom of being like a child and play with a song written by a man who is exceptional and brilliant in bridging the wisdom of age and youth, Fred Rogers. Did you know, did you know, did you know that it's all right to wonder? Did you know that it's all right to wonder? There are all kinds of wonderful things. Did you know? Did you know? Did you know that it's all right to marvel? Did you know that it's all right to marvel? There are all kinds of marvelous things. You can ask a lot of questions about the world and your place in it. You can ask about people's feelings. You can learn the sky's the limit. Did you know? Did you know? Did you know when you wonder, you're learning? Did you know when you marvel, you're learning about all kinds of wonderful, all kinds of marvelous, wonderfully marvelous things? Wonder, marvel, and for heaven's sake, keep playing.
Thank you, Reverend Phillip. And now it's time for us to answer the phone and find out what the congregational response is. What do you think? How do you play?
All right,
Thank
Sherry.
you.
Sherry's hand popped up first. Let me get you up there.
Okay, on Sunday mornings, I do yoga with Willie about 6 o'clock in the morning. And usually we come in a little bit sleepy and we do some mellow exercises. And then one of us takes the opportunity to display our techniques of doing a sun salutation. So today I had skillfully learned many different versions of it, and I thought I'd do a challenging one. So I did part of it. I went down, did half of it, executed it perfectly, went to the other side, did my swan dive down, my down dog, child's pose, came back up, and I just went blank. And all of a sudden, I just collapsed in laughter, and we all did. We just did. It was just too funny to have a blank. And we've all done that in our classes, and you have permission to be funny in yoga. If you were too serious, it wouldn't be a fun yoga. And that's in every class, and every teacher seems to have a great sense of humor. So it's a good place that you can have fun and experiment.
Definitely. All right, David, and then Stephen, and then Linda.
Two things real quick. The end of the sermon about wonder. The German philosopher Ernst Bloch did a wonderful take on a famous Bible saying, and he turned it into "Seek and ye shall wonder," which I love. But also, I'm remembering a little golden book from my childhood and from my children's childhood. And I can't think of the name of the little golden book. You know the little golden book series, I assume. It was, I'm talking about the late 1940s for me, but in it, there's a little engine on a train track, and he doesn't like being on the train track. And he just refuses to just stay on the track, and instead he jumps off the track into the field and plays with and smells the flowers. I remember, I can picture the scene of the little engine smelling the flowers and frolicking among the flowers and among the lambs in the field. So that really just caught my imagination. Leave the tracks. I'll never forget it. I mean, it was a formative text in my childhood, and I think it's what Reverend Phil was reminding us of today.
All right, Stephen, you're up next.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I don't have kids of my own, but I have nieces and nephews who have young children, great grandnieces and nephews. And whenever I'm with them, yes, I have to pay attention to like boundaries and making sure they're safe. But I always make sure there's time for me to just get down and play with them, just the way they like to play. And they love it, and I love it. And it just is wonderful.
All right, Linda, and then I'll go to Carolyn after that.
Phil, you reminded me today about just before the pandemic, we did, excuse me, with the tolerance of my Sunday services committee, I developed a sermon on UU humor. We had UUCHC comedy troupe all delivering, excuse me, so much, UU jokes. We had hymns that were, in the UU tradition, the words were rewritten to normal hymns. And we all enjoyed it tremendously, and the energy in the sanctuary afterwards was tremendous. That's it, I can't talk.
Okay, Carolyn, go ahead.
Does everybody remember that book? It was popular in, I don't know, it was the late 70s or 80s, but the Robert Fulgrim's book, Everything I Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. I love that book, and this makes me want to go back and read it again.
It's in the church library when we
So
go back to in person in the sanctuary. It's in the bookshelves back there.
Good.
And I have one if you need it.
Yeah, I know. I did. I don't know what happened to it.
Okay. All right. Who else? Let's see. Oh, Pat, let me get you there.
Your talk today reminded me of an experience I had when I was a child in school. Art classes, this was in the 40s. I was in elementary school in the early 1940s. Art class was torment for me because I could never draw what I was supposed to draw. I mean, it was taught, rigidly. And I carried that feeling that I could do nothing with art until I was an adult. And then after I had 3 kids, I went back to school to become a teacher. And I was in my late 20s, early 30s by that time. And one of the classes I had to take to be an elementary school teacher was kiddie art, how to teach art to elementary school kids. And that teacher just smashed all of my preconceived notions about how horrible it was to have art class, because he taught us that you never worry about drawing in the lines and you have fun. And these were Saturday art classes for adults who wanted to become teachers, a lot of other young mothers like myself. And we built castles out of macaroni, and we did all kinds of stuff that was fun. And it was just such a release for me to learn that. And I still am no artist, but I like to think that when I had to teach art class, which elementary school teachers often had to do, that I made it fun for the kids. Mm-hmm. So, okay, my speech.
Thank you. All right, and Tina, just a second, let me get you. Go ahead.
I loved the sermon and the jokes. And Pat's sharing reminded me, I don't have a way that I every day sort of try to play, but I was a long time ago, I was, many years ago, not that many, but I was training to be a Montessori teacher. And I was in the classroom of 3 to 6-year-olds, and it was, free art time. And I went up to a little girl that was drawing. I think her name was, let's say Cassie. And I said, "Oh, Cassie, tell me about your picture." I wasn't supposed to assume what she was drawing. She said, "Oh, it's my family, Miss Tina. And there's my dad, there's my mom, there's my little brother, Sam, and there's my big sister." And I said, "Cassie, where are you?" And she looked at me, she goes, "I'm at school." And I was like, the child is drawing as if she's the camera, maybe taking a picture. When you ask what time it is, the child says, "It's now." So yeah, I want to remember those sort of be where you are. It's pretty Zen, but it just was one of those things that stuck with me.
And all right, Chuck, let me get you on there.
I'm in school.
Good morning. Listening to Phillip reminded me of a play activity I had very young in my life. My best friend lived 2 doors from me, and the girl that lived on the other side of him played a lot in the 6, 7-year-old group. And in the backyard, we played, she was the nurse, I was the doctor / scientist, and he was the wild man that we tamed and brought back into society. And I was thinking about that, not so much that we played that, but we played it over and over and over again, always with the same results. We made him better so that he could come back and be around real people, as opposed to off to the back of his garage where he lived. And I appreciate you bringing that back into my mind, because he has passed, and I don't know whatever happened to her, but it was nice having that come back into my mind. Thank you, Phillip.
Right. Anyone else? All right.
Thank you. Well, let's move on to our final song. Thank you, Justin. Now is the time for the extinguishing of our chalice. And Reverend Phillip, do you have some words for that?
Certainly, and call them closing prayer too. With, well, as we extinguish the chalice, we take that which can no longer be seen, the Spirit, and we carry it with us, alive and dancing and playing. May we carry the spirit of this faith and the vision of heaven with us as we go forward.
Thank you. And those extinguishing the chalice words and closing words. And now we can have open discussion.